Hi, hello, welcome to Spell a Day, where we're covering a spell every single day of the year. +3, which is the current +1 at the moment, which is homebrew that we're covering, as well as everything from the PHB. And today's spell is Flesh to Stone. Sixth level transmutation, cast at time of 1 action, range of 60 feet, components for somatic material, a pinch of lime, water, and earth. Duration, concentration, up to 1 minute. You attempt to turn one creature that you can see within range into stone. If the target's body is made of flesh, the creature must make a constitution saving throw. On a failed save, it is restrained as its flesh begins to harden. On a successful save, the creature is unaffected. Creature restrained by the spell must make another constitution saving throw at the end of each of its turns. If it successfully saves against the spell 3 times, the spell ends. If it fails its 3 saves 3 times, it is turned to stone and subjected to the petrified condition for the duration. The successes and failures don't need to be consecutive. Keep track of both until the target collects 3 of a kind. If the creature is physically broken while petrified, it suffers from a similar deformities if it reverts to its original state. If you maintain your concentration of this spell for the entire possible duration, the creature is turned to stone until the effect is removed. I mean, it's being your own Medusa, isn't it? Or Gorgon, whatever. A spell I've wanted to use, a spell that I've had an NPC use, a spell that just in the middle of combat is not the best, but it's not the worst. So again, we have a world building and general talk this time. Though, I mean, the world building was a bit more obvious, and not in some cases. So first off, the combat one, which players and enemies and combat, it's a combat spell. But also not. And its detriments combat-wise, it's concentration, it's a 6th level spell that's only single target, and isn't doing damage. However, this is opening up for more damage and has the potential to immediately eliminate them from the fight. Because once you cast a spell, once they fail the initial save, even though, yes, they're not turned to stone entirely yet, it's flesh to stone, and you kind of expect that, they are restrained as they're slowly turning. That means they have 0 foot speed, they can't benefit from anything from movement, and they have disadvantage on attacks, and attacks against them have advantage, and disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. Those are some nasty effects to stack together. I mean, hit this on a boss when you have a group of melee fighters around it, or anyone. Everyone can benefit from that advantage, if it's an attack roll at least. And giving a particular dangerous enemy disadvantage on all their attacks while this is going on is pretty decent. Like that, I'd see that alone potentially being worth concentration. The fact it's also giving everyone advantage against them and they can't move. It's restrained. It's restrained for, at worst, if they break out of it, you're at least casting and holding restrained on a very dangerous target. 6th level still hurts though. Where the 6th level pays off is in the next following saves. If they fail 3 in the row, not in a row, but if they fail 3 or pass 3, first off, if they pass 3, the spell's ended. They're free of the spell. If they fail 3, however, they're petrified. They are out. They're gone. I mean, you still have to hold concentration if someone breaks that concentration for you. It's already been 4 rounds, theoretically, or 3 rounds, at least. So that's the issue, is even after they're initially petrified, you still have to hold concentration. If you hold it for the minute, they're just stuck as that stone. Now you got a nice statue. I would ask the question of, does the first failed save count as one of the 3 failures? That would definitely push the spell further in this just being a better pick, but I am thinking it's not. Potentially, I think as intended, it's the initial con save and then 3 and 3, either successes or failures after. But depending on how you want to take the wording or rule it, it'll definitely, if you want to buff the spell at least, it'll definitely buff it if you count the first failure as one of the 3 failures. Definitely talk to your GM about that, or if you are a GM, consider that. It's already potential petrification. Like I said, I've had NPCs use this. I haven't gotten a chance to use it too often, but I do find it fun to use this on players, because even after they're initially petrified, it's something that, oh no, we need to stop that. It's something that can be capitalized on in combat, the restrained condition for that minute anyway. They can't move unless someone else is helping move them around, and just the additional, we need to break that concentration or kill them before the petrification holds. And there are some abilities and features, like I think Greater Restoration can stop petrification. So if you have that on hand, yeah, you can just undo this afterwards, but that's still eliminating them from the fight. Same thing for players against enemies. Now that's all well and good, and you might be asking yourself, why haven't I mentioned the petrification stats yet, or what that effect results in? That's because we're getting to the world building side of things now. So Players, you can kind of take out of your head unless you want this as a background inspiration, but now we're talking about the world building implications. So I'm gonna make a bit of a poll. Necrons. This is how I run my auntie. Petrified. Petrified creature is transformed along with any non-magical object it is wearing or carrying into a solid inanimate substance, usually stone. Usually. Its weight increases by a factor of 10 and it ceases aging. The creature is incapacitated, see the condition, can't move or speak, and is unaware of its surroundings. Attack rolls against the creature have advantage. The creature automatically fails strength and dex saves. The creature has resistance to all damage. The creature is immune to poison and disease, although a poison or disease already in its system is suspended and not neutralized. Did you catch it? The aging. Remember all that previous talk of potentially keeping someone suspended with feigned death? This does that. Better, works, one-time cast. Sure, you need someone with greater restoration and some of the spells to take off petrification, but imagine a kingdom that has its heroes preserved in stone. The statues you see out in the palace courtyard or in the tombs are actually those warriors who are meant to be revivified or brought back from petrification during great times of need. See? Here's the Necron thing. You just need someone and reliably being able to undo petrification, which, depending on setting, I even know that Basilisk's Blood might be able to do that. Again, depends the setting, but sometimes there's even other ways outside of just some 2 spells to undo petrification through alchemical means. So, purposely casting this on people or yourself to preserve yourself, the issue is, you can still take damage. You're resistant to all damage, you're not immune. Advantage on all attacks against you, you fail dex and strength checks, which, well, who's gonna be directly attacking a statue if they know you are preserved like this? And 2, if you just happen to be in the background during a fight, like a dragon collapsing into a catacomb or something, you're gonna get crushed all the same. Even the example with the disease and poison is preserved and stopped the same way as feigned death with this. Not to mention, if you have some ancient civilization, you could have people purposely have preserved themselves, like, to be revivified in this sense long after. Again, the Necrons, Necron Tomb World, or Tomb City, or catacombs that are filled with all these statues of these, like, elven people or whatever, and then just waiting for one person to wake up to help wake the rest of them up. And oh no, you have an ancient civilization's military forces back, or higher-ups back, or scary all level 20 spellcasters back. That ancient hero from long ago that disappeared centuries ago, he was turned to stone. Did you stumble upon him in a lair? Was he purposely turned to stone this way? Is he waiting to be revivified by some stranger, or was there a prophecy to revivify them? I keep saying revivify, that's not the spell that does this, but you get what I mean. You keep any physical damages to yourself even when you're turned back. Someone hacked off your arm when you were stone, and you come back and oh no, or it's been so long they actually confused you for a statue and they decided to carve away some features, or you just weathered. There's a thing called erosion and weathering. Point like an ancient hero that was petrified, stuck in a glacier, split apart, have some of their limbs taken away. Also comes into question, how long does it stay stone? If you break it apart and then move it away and you undo the effect on a specific part of it, or does it have to be the torso of it or the head of it? If you unpetrify one part of it, does everything that was that stone also come back to whatever its original form was? So some just hand statue that was taken a long time ago, or sword, is now just an actual sword and dead hand? I don't know. But this is your stasis. This is your trying to keep someone alive until there's a cure or to fix a curse. This is your keeping your ancient heroes long away. Like, okay, imagine a kingdom in this setting where their greatest advisor sages, when they get old to a certain age, so they can always be asked, are purposely put into stone and brought back from petrification to eventually say and advise on a current situation in the modern day. Ancient knowledge and wisdom, the equivalent of a fantasy Socrates being able to be just brought back to ask a question and then petrified again. An entire library of all these monks and scribes, and amongst the hall's statues, which are actually just the living people who wrote some of these original books. This is one of those situations, similar to Fabricate, but people sleep on this one. Fabricate as well. Okay, if this was just down to a Gorgon or Medusa, if you befriended one, you could do these similar effects. And then it would be like, oh, it would have the accidental situation of an ancient hero who failed to kill this beast, then you can bring back and then ask. wouldn't be everywhere. The fact this is a spell people can pick up, this is going to be utilized. This is going to be used. This is a case like Fabricate, where it can have a massive shifting impact on a setting. You're gonna see a lot of stone statues around of people like this. Now again, who would be willingly petrified? I don't know. But that sense of perseverance, preserving oneself, actively, if there is an alchemical answer, having some like trap, having a booby trap that has that alchemical cure set up to pour onto the statue when someone breaks in. Not necessarily a mummy situation, but similar to a mummy situation of like animating the dead on a trigger, but having some of the stone statues, which are actually just the people preserved, being woken up when their tomb is disturbed. Again, it's the Necrons. Do you want to run Necrons in your setting? It's how I run my Yanti. It's dope. But because of this, it's another situation of where like, in combat, it's still good to have the restraint condition, but for the spell slot and the concentration on top of that as well, but then the world building wise, I gave Firestorm a 9 out of 10, didn't I? 8 out of 10? You do need other spells and effects to undo and have a system in place for the preserving of oneself, but it already does what Feign Death was supposed to do, but way better outside of the initial feigning of death. And then also just in the combat situation, it's still great to have someone restrained, but the concentration high-level spell slot, which hurts it a lot in combat, but with the out-of-combat situation, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's great. 8 out of 10.